Hello and welcome to Remotely Interesting, where we're now going on the road and asking some of our clients about some research that Vanson Bourne have given us, which looks into some kind of ways in which senior marketers in the IT and tech industries have adapted during the coronavirus. So today I'm joined with Andrew Hally, who is the CMO of Bynder. Hi, Andrew. Thank you.
Hello, how are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Great to be here. Good.
Yeah, great. So we wanted to dive in, as I said, to some research that Vanson Bourne have created. And part of that study we found particularly interesting was how IT decision makers have changed the way they consume news. So in summary, it found out that 51% have turned to social media more to get their industry news fix. And other findings that we found particularly interesting was that 58% are consuming more live and on-demand video, 56% are consuming more organised webinars, and 37% are consuming more market research. So Andrew, I just wanted to get your thoughts on these findings. Is there anything about those that surprised you, or are they what you expected?
I think broadly they are what I would expect. You know, the further move of media consumption online to being social media oriented, more video and virtual events, you know, that's not really surprising at all. It seems that, as with other trends, the pandemic has really accelerated trends that were already happening. I believe Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said something to that effect when he observed the pandemic has really created 3 years of digital transformation in just 3 months. So it's really accelerated trends that I think were already in play. One thing I did find a little surprising, though, was the difference that the survey data picked up between US and UK IT decision makers. If I recall, use of social media to gather news was almost twice as common with US IT decision makers than UK. That surprised me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see the regional split, and there might be a kind of conception that UK and US decision makers might, being from the Western world, operate in a very similar fashion. So yeah, it's interesting to kind of see the difference there. So just to kind of follow on from that, is in terms of your own marketing, how have you adjusted at Bynder to the challenges of the pandemic?
Well, fortunately, you know, with Lorry's help, Bynder's PR strategy was already quite focused on online media, and we've recently been working to invigorate our social media presence, and we've had a good emphasis on video quite a while. So a number of things were fortunately in place for us already. However, starting this spring, we absolutely pivoted hard towards virtual events. Lots of webinars that have worked well, and taking customer events to customer roundtables that are virtual, and even our big on-brand event we're hosting virtually in a couple weeks. But I think one thing I've observed, even though the pandemic has forced this change, there's really no alternative. That doesn't mean there's not some good things in this new state. I'm reminded actually of my local barber, Pat, who has been forced by local regulations to switch to online appointments only. But having done that, actually everyone's better off. People like me getting haircuts, we don't have to wait around until a barber frees up. And Pat's able to schedule exactly as many barbers as he needs. And he has no intention of going back to the old way, even once the pandemic is under control with vaccine. I think we're going to see the same thing with events. For example, On Brand has been European hosted, which means our audience has been vastly European. Now that it's fully virtual, we're seeing a huge engagement with the North American audiences, which is really great.
Yeah, I think it allows you to kind of reach a more global, broader audience as well, which also nicely segues on to the next question. And I just wanted to see if you've got any kind of top tips for reaching targets in different regions.
One thing I've observed is people love to be able to identify with the subject of news. And the greater you can kind of reflect your audience, the better. Actually, the survey data here is a great example, right? Where they've got survey data about both UK-based IT decision makers as well as US IT decision makers. So with this news, one could engage the UK market and the US market better than if you just had kind of like a global survey. The same can be true not just like on a geographic region, but if you can, for example, have something in your news about a specific industry you're trying to reach. Again, people like reading about themselves, comparing themselves to their peers. So any way you can kind of hold a mirror up to your audience, that seems to me to always help.
Yeah, it's kind of having that inward view on what's currently going on. It's quite easy to, I suppose, to put the blinkers on and charge forward, but actually it's interesting to see how people who are sat next to you are thinking and how they're prioritizing growth and development in these weird times.
Exactly. I mean, humans are hardwired to look at our peers, our community, and see how we're doing in reality tests. So if you, through your media efforts, can help them do that, you're going to see more success.
Absolutely. Well, that was some brilliant advice. And I think that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. But thank you for joining me today, Andrew.
Thanks for sharing the research.
Thank you. And for those watching, stay tuned for more videos on our social channels and our blog. And we'll see you all soon.